BrownsCast. I'm your host, Joe Gilbert. I'm with Taylor Jedrzejek once again. Taylor, how are we doing?
If pollen didn't exist, I'd be a lot better.
Yeah, same with a lot of people, I think. um, yeah, we are here to kind of get you ready for the free agency for the NFL, which starts tomorrow. The legal tampering starts tomorrow, I believe, at 4 o'clock or noon. I
Yeah,
think it's
when does
noon.
the new league year
Yeah,
starts?
I think it's I
15th,
think
I
it's
believe.
noon. Yeah, it's noon tomorrow is when they can start talking. You can't you can't agree to anything, but you can start contract, which basically means to start a free agency. And then Wednesday at 4 o'clock is when the league year starts. So there's going to be a lot of news over the next week or so.
Yep.
So we're going to get you ready here. Before we do that, I'm going to talk about Underdog Fantasy. That's our sponsor for today. For first-time depositors, enter in the code WFNY at checkout, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Underdog is a great platform if you're tired of the DFS salary system. There are tons of game types, drafts every night for every sport during that week. Don't forget to use WFNY at checkout to get your first-time deposit matched up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy. Okay. So the last time we talked was when they hired Jeff Schwartz,
Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz. Oh my God,
I
Jeff
think we
Schwartz.
did that last time too.
Yeah. Oh my God, Jeff Schwartz is from a show I watch. So since then, there's been a few things that we can go over. The first one was let's stick with the coaching. So Mike Prefer was let go, and they brought in pretty quickly is Bubba Ventrone, former Cleveland Brown special teamer. Probably one of the better special teamers that we've had over the
Yeah.
years. He's back as the assistant head coach and the special teams coach. So what's your thought on kind of letting Prefer go and bringing him in?
Well, I think going back to the regular season, and we talked about it middle of the season how we wanted Prefer to go. Then, I think by the end of the season, the special teams had not really become an asset, but they had not become a detriment either.
Right.
So like the discussion kind of subsided a little bit, but I think at the end of the season, most people kind of assumed that he was going to be one of the ones that went by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
I think the timing of it was kind of weird.
I would agree with that.
Um, I think it based on what's kind of come out after the fact, it has more to do with the Colts coaching search than it has to do with like had they hired Ventrone as their head coach, we'd be going into next season with Prefer and have been fine. But
probably, yeah.
They saw an opportunity to improve because Bubba Ventrone was going to resign because when you go for an internal promotion and you don't get it, it's not like you want to hang around very long. So he decided he was going to leave the Colts, and the Browns heard about it and went and got him.
Yeah, and from everything that I've heard is good things with Bubba. He actually helped. Is it Greg Joseph over there?
Yeah,
Greg Joseph. So he kind of got deserted here, and
one of our many cut kickers.
Right,
went on to be good somewhere else.
Yeah, he's turned into a very solid kicker. It just seemed like his interview or his press conference seemed like a really good guy, and I think it was one of those things. They just needed another voice in there.
Yeah,
they needed. I feel like they needed more energy in there, and maybe a younger guy because it just seemed Prefer was just not. It just I don't know. He just didn't seem like it was clicking with the guys. Special teams coach, I always think you need to have a motivator because a lot of the times the players don't want to. Like that's not what they came in the NFL to do. Like they didn't want to come in to be a gunner or something like that. So you gotta motivate them, and I think he seems like a guy who can do that. He has the experience. He has so much experience in the NFL to actually being a special teams guy, so he knows what their guys are feeling. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I did like to hear that he was thinking about bringing in like Phil Dawson or Josh Cribbs to kind of help in that respect. So it's kind of nice hearing that he doesn't. He's not going to take it like he knows everything.
Yeah.
Because what would he know on kicking? Obviously, you can learn stuff, but it's always good to have someone else that kind of has done the job.
Especially Phil Dawson is an expert of
Yeah, kicking in
the one
Cleveland.
specific stadium.
Right.
So yeah.
So I thought it was a very good hire. I really like what they're just looking overall on the coaching staff. I really like what they've done.
Yeah.
The other move was what's his first name? Musgraves. I can't think of his name right
I
now.
think it was Bill, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bill Musgraves. Yes. He was hired as a advisor on offense. Scott Van Pelt.
Alex Van Pelt.
Alex Van Pelt was moved back to quarterback coach.
Scott Van Pelt is our QB coach. We might have.
I know that would have been funny.
Nothing against Scott Van Pelt, but
right. So he moved back to quarterback coach after Petson, I believe his last name was, left to be in somewhere else. So I kind of like the Musgraves hire. He's more of a kind of a spread it out shotgun guy. So that kind of it's a nice kind of voice, a different kind of voice scheme wise.
It's something they needed.
Right.
Something they needed.
Yeah, we talked about it. We kind of talked about it after the season or during the season, actually, where they needed to kind of get maybe another voice in there to kind of open up the offense, making it a little more diverse. So I like that hire, and overall, I kind of just I like where the coaching staff is right now. What's your thoughts on just the overall coaching staff?
I think they've done a really good job remaking it. Maybe correcting some of the mistakes they did the first time around in trying to hire low floor, high ceiling guys. They've, and this is a phrase we've used a lot, they've kind of come around and gone the opposite direction. Like Jim Schwartz is not going to be the next great defensive head coach in the league. He's had that shot, I think, twice, and it didn't work out. But he's going to be a very good defensive coordinator.
Right.
So your coaching ability has gone up considerably without sacrificing a lot of the philosophies that you already have. Obviously, Ventrone is probably going to be a head coach at some point. I think the league seems like the league circles think he's a couple of years away. They gave him the associate head coach role for that reason, and so that they could actually hire him without the Colts blocking it. I don't think that was a move by the team to say this is our interim coach should we need it. I think that was strictly so that the Colts could not block the interview. But they've really done a good job remaking the coaching staff into a unit that has respect around the league and should be good at their jobs.
Right. Yeah, I agree. They pretty much they fix. Well, they replaced the problems on the coaching staff. We talked about at the end of the year. Defense coordinator, special teams was not good, and they had the sense of mind to take to replace it. So I appreciate that. A lot of coaches, especially in their kind of, what would you say this year is the do or die year, I would say, for Kevin Stefanski. Would you say that? Yeah. So
and if they come out with 6-11 or 7-10 this year, I'm not sure that there's going to be very many people defending him.
Right. Yeah. So doing that just kind of in your final, or not in your final year, but in your do or die season, I respect that. So overall, I just like where the coaching staff is right now. It's
Yeah,
It
and
seemed
it
everything
shouldn't
lines
go
up.
unnoticed that Stefanski let go of guys that he brought in.
Right, Woods. Yep,
Yeah, like
yep.
some could say it's desperation, but like it's hard to fire your friends.
Yeah,
So
Prefer's been with him a couple times. Yeah.
yeah, so like these were discussions that he had to come to with DePodesta and Barry and say like, yeah, this is probably the best route for our team right now, and
Mhm.
it's gonna hurt me personally, but it's also gonna hurt me more personally if I get fired next year.
Right, right,
So
exactly. Yeah. Okay, so that's the coaching staff changes. They haven't. We were so we were gonna do a podcast on Friday, and then something happened, so we moved to Sunday, and we were hoping, okay, 2 days we're gonna get a restructuring here.
yeah,
Still waiting on that,
yep,
but other than that, there has been a couple moves. The notable one has been John Johnson. I don't think he's been released yet. I think he's what is it, June 1st? I think they can schedule it for June 1st or whatever.
yeah. I
Um,
think that would be. I mean
to
that's
get
when the biggest.
yeah, the biggest
That's when the
cut.
biggest cap save is going to be. Like
Right.
that would be. It would almost be negligent if they didn't.
Yeah. Right.
So I
So
imagine they will do that.
um, I agreed with it. I thought after the season, I just didn't. I don't think it was working out for him. Obviously, this new defense may have been better for him, but still, it's just one of those things that it just wasn't meshing here. Kind of let go of the guy, especially in this free agency. There are a lot of really good safeties out there, so I think he can be easily replaced and upgraded.
Yeah.
So I was definitely not surprised with that. What's your thoughts on John Johnson let go?
Um. Obviously, Jim Schwartz watched the film and decided
Yep.
that
Yep.
that either A, he wasn't going to be able to be fixed, or B, he wasn't going to fit. Um, and obviously, with like, he's probably one of the names that Barry went to and said, "Hey, can you fix this guy? Is he going to be worth the money? If
Yep.
not, we're going to let him go because
Mm-hmm.
we can't. Like, this is a major cap save for us." So
Right.
I mean, obviously the film is out there on Twitter, all of his bad plays from last year. People were very quick to find those.
Yep.
um, all of the seemingly low effort plays that existed.
Mm.
um, so
He just seemed like a guy that he may have not have been like the problem, but he didn't help. Like he
no,
wasn't one
he
of those
was a
guys that
symptom.
kind of right. He was one of the guys that just didn't really make plays. Like how many
No,
interceptions did he have? Like maybe one. I don't know.
not even
Um,
now.
yeah, it's just it just didn't work out. Obviously, I think it was a scheme fit. They made him go in another role, and that obviously did not work.
Yeah, no,
um, I could definitely see him somewhere back in that system, maybe in the Chargers or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, it just didn't work out, and that happens. Free agency, that happens in free agency. We always talk about these big. I was so high on that signing, but a lot of the times, if it doesn't fit like your scheme, it's not going to work out. So, and this is one of those times. Yeah. Other than that, there hasn't been really a lot of moves roster wise.
no. There's been a lot less noise out of the Browns than me
Right.
expected.
Which they are known for very closed doors on their news.
Yeah, which is good. I mean,
Right,
it's
like
good in
the
a sense
Deshaun
because
Watson. I always go back to that. Like no one had any idea that they were even in it, let alone
no,
then
that
they
that all
gave up
happened all
again.
at once. There was no
Right.
rumors. There
Yeah.
was just a
Yep.
trade.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we'll be later in the week probably. Once things happen, we can actually talk about it. But
Yeah,
the last kind of news of the offseason was obviously Joe Thomas made the Hall of Fame. So congrats to him, much deserved. Because of that, the Browns are playing in the Hall of Fame game. First time since '99, I believe.
Yeah,
I think they were
they usually try
in
to
that one.
put
Yeah,
like someone who goes to the Hall of Fame in the
right.
game.
Yeah.
It
So,
is super weird that we're playing the Jets because we also play the Jets in the regular season.
right. Yeah,
It would be hilarious if for some reason we played the Jets week 1.
that would be funny. Um,
I doubt that's going to happen, but
it does pretty much tell you that no one is going to be playing in that game.
no, absolutely no one. They
Absolutely zero people.
Hell, if I'm a coach of either team, I might take someone else's playbook and run those plays.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
So it's gonna be fun to watch them, but you're not gonna learn anything about anything in that game.
no, like the backups of the backups are going to be playing.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I like is like they get to start training camp early, which is
Yeah,
kind of fun for us. But other than that, yeah, there's not much you can take from a Hall of Fame game. They used to play in
the
that
stadium
game,
will be
not
full.
anymore. Yeah,
The
that's
stadium will
true.
be full.
Oh, it's going to be a hectic down there.
Yeah,
Canton is probably so happy on that decision.
yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that's the Browns offseason kind of recap. Before we kind of move on to free agency, the rumors and all that, let's talk about someone in our division that's going to greatly impact what happens next season. Lamar Jackson's future. He was he never was able to get a contract extension, at least so far, with Baltimore. So they non-reclusive, I believe, is the
Not
terminology.
exclusive.
Non-exclusive, yes. Franchise tag. So that means teams can negotiate a contract with them. Baltimore has the right to match any of them, but if they don't, they would get 2 first rounders. It's an interesting story because after we saw that, there's what five or six teams that got rumored out that they
Yeah,
weren't going to be in the running. So
yeah.
kind of leads to a little kind of
And the only team, well, there's 2 teams that immediately said we're out that have since committed to that decision.
right.
The Dolphins picking up the 5th year on Tua, and the Panthers trading for the first pick. Everyone else, it's still can be filed under posturing.
Right. Yeah.
Vegas never said they're out.
Right.
The Commanders said they're out, but like, do they matter? The team I least believe is the Falcons.
Exactly. Yeah. That like seems like just the most perfect fit.
Yeah.
Like just it just seems like the most perfect fit. Yeah, I was surprised by that sort of. It's hard to believe anything right now because it's in kind of smoke screen season.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be the story of free agency. It's gonna be what the heck happens to him, because that man, that's a earth shattering thing in the AFC North if he's gone. Like it's gonna rock the whole whole division. It catapults the Browns up to number 2 easily, and we're not even getting into the Bengals problems because that's I don't know if
I don't know enough about
right,
labor laws to go into that one.
right. But let's just say that if the NFLPA is sending out a mass email about your franchise, that's never a good idea. Never a good thing.
It's never something that you want to have 2 days before free agency starts.
Exactly. So,
you guys want to sign to improve and maybe get back to the Super Bowl? Here's this email that will make players not want to go to your state,
right.
which also unfortunately affects the Browns.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine the Browns are super thrilled with this either.
Right. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to watch this division. This it could be a really kind of seismic shift in what happens uh, and what happens this next season, because it could be a whole new landscape by the time we start. Um, by the time we start next season, we could have a new quarterback in Baltimore. We could have a really kind of skimmed down Bengals team, because there's a lot of reports that Jesse Bates is likely not returning. He's probably their best defender, or close to it at least. Um, so if he leaves, that's a huge loss. There's rumors that they might have to trade. What's the receiver's name?
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler. No, not Tyler Boyd. The other one.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins. Yeah, because his contract is coming up soon. It's gonna be a interesting offseason to watch each team in the division.
And the Steelers are
and the Steelers are just in the
I
back,
guess.
right? Yes, they're gonna still roll with the quarterback, I guess.
We're gonna do the same things over and over again and wonder why we finish 7-10 every year.
Yeah, so this it could, if things fall in the right place, the Browns could be in great position entering this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot for the Bengals to fall apart.
Yeah, definitely. When you have Joe Burrow, you're kind of
like I still expect them. Like I'm not saying that they're going from 12-4 to basement. But
they wouldn't have the Baltimore drop. Like if Lamar leaves, then that's going to be a cosmic.
No, if Lamar leaves, they are a top 5 pick, like pretty much locked.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Okay, let's get back to kind of free agency rumors going on. So as we talked about, we've been expecting the Watson contract restructuring, because I believe it's $35 million, something around that, that they can open up in salary cap by restructuring his contract. I believe that they just moved the money to signing bonus. That's Mary Kay has pretty much said it's happening. I think it would be a shocker if it didn't happen.
It would be negligent.
Right. Yeah. So that can happen anytime before 4:00 on Wednesday. So you could just pretty much put in your mind that they're going to have an extra $35 million in salary cap to kind of work with entering the off season. So there's not much to talk about on that one, because it pretty much is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. The other one, it's been kind of, I never really trusted the source on this. It was Matthew Berry, the fantasy expert, kind of heard rumors about Nick Chubb trade during the combine. It's since been kind of tampered down. I think Mary Kay said it doesn't look like that's happening, but
I can't imagine that would happen.
Yeah, right. It just didn't make any sense, because if you do trade him, then you're to basically Jerome Ford, and Dearness Johnson, I believe, is a free agent, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's at least some sort of free agent. He may be like a restricted or something like that, but he is a free agent. I don't think the Browns are doing that. His contract is higher than most running backs. I think they'll eventually maybe have to make a decision on him, but I don't think this offseason. They're not in that kind of situation where they need money.
Not that badly, no.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think they'll do anything with that. And he still is a top 5 running back, top 3 probably. So you don't want to kind of get rid of that.
Yeah, I mean, his contract finally kicked in this season. It kicks in this season. Mm-hmm. He's going to make $10 million this year.
Right. In the grand scheme of things, that's not that much, especially for your second best offensive player. third best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that was one of those things. I first saw, I was like, I have to click on like, who says this, and then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the fantasy guy. Okay, I'm gonna go with highly skeptical on that rumor, but got to talk about it here. So, other than that, there's been a couple rumors on names and stuff, which we'll get into later on our kind of wish list. But overall, it just seems like they're going to be a highly aggressive. From everything we've been hearing from Mary Kay, from all the beat reporters, they're going to be very active and aggressive, and some of the big names. So it should be a fun free agency for the
Yeah.
Browns.
Yeah. And what's nice, and obviously they're smart enough to realize this too, but like most of the rumors you see are defensive players. Like, yeah, they're tied to some wide receivers out there. Some people are holding on to hope for DeAndre Hopkins, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
I also don't know how much that would help them at this point.
right?
He's
Yeah,
kind of like, obviously he's very good, but he doesn't.
he's sort of like he's like a better version of Donovan Peoples-Jones. like he's kind of the
Yeah, you
catch
don't
point
solve your problem of not
downfield. Yeah,
having a downfield threat.
right.
Early in his career, Hopkins could have been that, but
Yeah,
he's not that guy anymore. So it's nice to see like all of the names they're attached to on defense.
yeah.
I don't know if some of that is wishful thinking or if some of it is, or if there's actual reasoning behind it.
Right. It does
But
kind of get it makes me feel good that they're actually, especially a defensive tackle, that they're kind of going into it knowing that this is a problem.
yeah,
Like the past couple seasons, they haven't really addressed it, barely.
yeah,
So it looks like they know that they got to get somebody, and especially with Jim Schwartz, he needs interior guys. So I think they know what the problems are on this team, and I think they'll be aggressive on that. So should be a fun couple days here, couple weeks here. So before we get in the names or in our kind of wish lists, we talked about kind of our biggest needs in the last pod, but a few things have changed over since then. So we're going to just kind of rehash what our top 5 biggest needs are for number one for this offseason for the Browns. I would believe we are in agreement for number 1.
yeah. I mean,
Interior defensive lineman.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
That isn't going to change until they sign 1 or 2 guys.
exactly right. It is by far the worst position. They currently have no starters, really.
Nope.
Like none that you could like really kind of. I guess you can think about having one start, but yeah, it wouldn't be good. Let's just say that.
It's not what you want.
No. So yeah, interior defensive lineman is by far the number 1 position of need, and I think the team knows that. With all the names that have come out, I think they know that quite well that this is a problem. Number 2, I have safety. What do you have?
Yeah, safety, and probably an edge rusher. Are probably
those are 2 and 3 for me.
Yeah, those are tied. Like those are so equally important that they're tied. And after that, you probably just like for me. After that, it's a linebacker, probably just one. Because I think at this point you might be able to bring Anthony Walker back for fairly cheap.
Right.
He's up there in age, and he came off a pretty major quad injury, so he probably won't be that expensive. If for anything, for nothing else, you just bring him back for some continuity because the locker room seems to like him.
Right. So for safety, I have a slightly ahead of edge because safety there's no like option for a starter besides Delpit. On the edge, I could see maybe if they're really happy with oh man, my mind burnt blank. The rookie last year. Oh my god. Let me look it up. Sorry,
Which position?
edge.
Alex Wright.
Yes, thank you, Man, mine is. It's the morning, man. Morning pods are gonna get me. Yeah, so I think
Haven't had to think about the Browns much in the last couple months.
right. Alex Wright is at least an option for starting opposite of Miles, but in the safety position they have pretty much nobody. So I think that's why I have them slightly ahead. But I definitely think they definitely both those positions need a starter quality guy. I think we're in agreement there. So safety and edge are 2 and 3. 4, I have receiver. What do you have?
I think I just said linebacker.
Linebacker. I have them 5. So
yeah.
What do you have at 5?
A receiver, because I think there's a lot more of those floating around.
Right.
Like obviously you're like if you can get your hands on someone like DJ Chark, that would be the goal. Because I think he's someone that can change the offense.
Yeah. I'm really wondering if how they handle that. Do they go? What's your opinion? Do you think they go through the draft, the trade, or free agency and to kind of sign this speed receiver? I'm thinking trade.
Well, the free agent market is so populated with those kind of players, though. Like you have Chark,
True.
you have Hardman.
Yeah. The thing with Hardman scares me though because he played with the best quarterback in the league and he really didn't produce that well. So he kind of scares me a little bit. Like just based on skill set, God, is he the perfect fit?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, does he really in that offense? Does he need to produce super high numbers?
True.
Or does he need to be
the threat ability? Yeah.
Or does him existing improve?
Good point. That's a good point.
Obviously, you don't want him to go out there and just run decoy routes the entire season, but
no, you'd be wasting your money.
Eventually, defenses would figure it out.
Right.
But
that's a good point. Yeah, he would, and I don't think he would go for kind of huge money either, especially coming off an injury. I think he was pretty much out for most of the half of the season. I think it was, so he shouldn't be a big price. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. Like, there's Brandon Cooks could be an option. He might be a little bit high trade value. I don't know what he would go for.
It seems like the receivers in Denver are both equally unhappy.
Yeah. Cortland
Sutton has been tweeting, and
right.
And Jerry Jeudy has been connected. I
would be
things.
Too if Russell Wilson was my quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a name to watch. Let's see, Cooks, Hopkins. We talked about. He's not really kind of the guy that they need.
No, I mean he'd obviously be a big splash, but
right?
Do you need that? Like,
right?
You made that big splash a few years ago, and
yeah, just based on everything.
For some reason, they're back at that same splashes tryout,
right? Just based on everything that they kind of said, like at the end of the season and in this offseason, they really seem like they want to get more explosive offense, and I think they know that they need some more speed on the receiver. So I would be kind of surprised if it kind of comes to Hopkins, but and you never know. There's always those kind of surprise trades. Like, who said Tyreek Hill is going to get traded last year? So it can a name can pop up anywhere.
I think like if for some reason Arizona is willing to part with DeAndre Hopkins for a package that is only slightly more expensive than what they gave up for Amari Cooper last year,
you gotta take it, right?
You gotta do it.
Yeah,
but I don't think anyone's gonna be looking. It's like right now the Browns. Obviously there's not as much of a proven track record as the comparison I'm about to make, but if the Browns front office contacts you about wanting to trade for a wide receiver,
Run,
are you
run.
gonna listen? It's kind of like it's like a very minute version of the whole Guardians thing. If they come for a trade and they want
Yeah,
this pitcher, are you gonna look at this pitcher again and say, what are we not seeing?
yeah, I know. Like, what are we missing here?
If they want this guy,
That's a
what
very
have we
good.
missed?
That's a good. That's a good one. Yeah, it's it's going to be interesting to see that. The Browns do have some extra picks later in the draft, so they could use those. But yeah, it's I'm gonna lean towards free or for trade for this position.
Mhm.
But I could definitely see there is, as you said, there is kind of good options in free agency. And one of those things that Mary Kay has reported is a lot of the receivers actually want to come here to play with Deshaun Watson, which is not something we've been used to.
No.
Like Baker Mayfield, not to bash Baker Mayfield, but he never kind of had that draw for people to come in and kind of play with him. So that's gonna be it's gonna be intriguing to see if that changes the equation and we get maybe a higher guy that comes here on a decent contract because he just wants to play with Deshaun. Um, so yeah, and one of the other things with Hopkins is I think they did say that I forget who reported it, but that he would be willing to restructure his contract based on where he goes.
Yeah.
So that could be even more enticing for the Browns if it's not a big if it's like a Mari Cooper type trade. Like that's hard to. You're not finding a DeAndre Hopkins in the fifth round. Like
No.
like
And something I could imagine is that it's like he would want to play with Watson again.
right.
Him
Yeah.
getting traded was the whole reason Watson didn't want to be in Houston anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And I'm like I just always go back to when the Patriots were really good. They spent so wisely on those last picks. They traded what for Randy Moss, like a sixth rounder, a fifth rounder. Like they use these late rounders very aggressively in trades and just to improve their team. And I think with the lack of draft capital at the top of the draft, I think it would be kind of behoove the Browns to kind of be aggressive and use these later Brown picks to kind of get these veterans that will come in cheaper and they're going to be known quantities coming in.
yeah, yeah. I think when you get to this point in the we need to compete cycle,
Yeah,
you're looking for known quantities more than you're looking for picks.
right.
Obviously, you still want to have some draft picks. Look what
Mm.
the Rams are about to slide into some deep depression hole.
Yeah,
Be-
they basically put everybody up for trades.
yeah, they're paying everyone. They have no draft picks.
Yeah,
Um, the fact
but
that
they won
the
the
fact that
championship.
yeah, they won a Super Bowl.
That's all
But
that mattered.
good Lord, the next 5 years might be awful.
The tens of fans are going to be mad. Yeah. So okay. So we talked about the what they need. Let's get into our wish list. This is our top 5 wish lists from free agency. So this is just free agency. Um, so I'll go first. My number one is Javon Hargrave. Um, I think he would be great. First of all, he worked with Jim Schwartz. He succeeded very highly in Jim Schwartz's defense. I think it's just a perfect fit. He would come in and know the defensive scheme and can help kind of teach the other guys on the defensive line. And obviously, he's one of the best in the league. He's probably, I would say, close to top 5, top 10 in the interior defensive line. So I would go with him as my number one. Who's your number one on your free agent list?
I'm gonna. It's a fairly recent name to the pile.
Okay.
Seems like Draymond Jones
Okay.
is someone
Yeah,
the Brown like.
he's
All
on
the
my list.
reports, are pointing towards the Browns really wanting him, and if that's getting out, then one, it's not coming from Berea, it's coming from his agent. But
Yeah,
it, I think that's a good
mhm,
signing. Like
yeah, yeah. It's one of those.
it's a
Yeah,
neat. It also
yeah.
helps that he went to St. Ignatius.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Like he has connections here, so he's one of those guys that might want to come back. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's home.
right. It's home. Yeah. He was number 3 on my list, so I'll tell you about that one. So yeah, he's really young. This would be his first free agency after getting drafted. So I think he's what 26, 27,
Yes,
something around that.
he's 26, and he's going to
26.
be 26 the whole season.
Yeah, he's got one of the better pressure rates in the league from the interior defensive line, and just based on what we've seen, that would be a godsend.
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think in this kind of passing league, getting a guy that can rush the passer from the interior is going to be great. So yeah, I definitely Draymond is definitely number on my list. He's number 3.
yeah,
Um, so my number 2 is Jesse Bates. Um, Twofold for him. Obviously, he fills a perfect spot for us, filling in for John Johnson's spot. I think him and Delpit would be a really good duo.
yeah,
They're both kind of very versatile guys. I love versatility in the back. They kind of that can help you kind of disguise better on what the defense, what play you're kind of in. And then obviously hurting the Bengals is always a good draw. Like
yeah.
taking it from your division rival is going to be it's going to be a added plus on that. So Jesse Bates is my number 2.
Yeah, he's my number 2 as well.
Okay.
All the same reasons. I think that the only thing that's going to prevent him from the Browns from taking a serious interest is his contract demands, which are apparently very high, which is the reason the Bengals can't afford him anymore.
Right.
Um, so if they can get him for a reasonable price, I have no doubt that they're going to do everything they can to do it.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of is he going to want $15 million a year to be a safety?
Right.
And do the Browns think A, that he's worth it, and B, that that's a good allocation of the limited funds that they already have? Like, if
Right.
you're spending $15 million on someone, that's what, about 40% of your entire allotted cap for this free agency period?
Right. Yeah.
And you still got to go get an edge rusher, which is going to take a bunch of money. Like, that's at least a $10 million spend, and a
Hmm.
good defensive tackle is at least a $10 million, like, and that's like your whole
Yeah.
cap.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a matter of you gotta make the dollars work, and
Right.
that's what Deep Podesta does best. They made a movie about it. Um,
Right. It's basically how you prioritize your positions of need. Like,
yeah,
are you going to is safety the top need or one of the top needs, and do you prioritize it more than like to spend more on it than like say edge rusher or interior defensive line? So yeah, that's definitely one to look at going forward. But 3 is Draymond for me. So what's your 3?
um, I would say that it's probably um, DJ Chark.
Okay.
Just not because I think the receiver, like, obviously I ranked receiver as my last because I think there's so many. But if you have an opportunity to get a young receiver that is produced with
Mhm.
um, Blake, who the hell, or with Gardner Minshew and Jared
Gardner
Goff,
Minshew, yeah, cheers, right.
like, he is produced with those guys as his quarterback.
Yeah,
Like, that's that would be a big get.
yeah.
That would change your offense for the
Hmm.
better, because you'd all of you defenses wouldn't be able to send to bracket Cooper on his routes anymore, and you'd be stuck
Yeah.
putting a safety who's probably undersized on Peoples Jones.
Right. Yeah, he's one of
So
those kind of perfect fits in free agency.
yeah,
That would be. Yeah.
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 Like I don't know what his contract demands are going to be. I don't think I've seen
Yeah.
very much about that.
Because he's also coming off an injury too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got.
I think he spent a lot of last season like off and on the like. I don't think it was
Yeah.
a major injury.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but he did produce solidly in Detroit for a quarterback that can't really throw down the field that well.
Yeah,
So,
like when you're producing with Gardner Minshew and Jared Goff,
right, two quarterbacks that do not throw downfield.
yeah, you're obviously not bad.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, so that's your three. Mine was Draymond Jones. Number four, I'm going to go with safety Chauncey Gardner Jones. He was one of my favorites in the draft, and he still is. He has produced in the NFL. Played for Philadelphia last year. Um,
He's
he's
going to be available.
yeah, he's fairly young. I think he's 26, 27. I think he's similar to Draymond Jones. I think this is his first contract year. Um, and he just fits a need. He's another versatile kind of safety that would fit well with Del Pitt. Um, Probably less expensive as Jesse Bates. So if you want to go that route, I can see them going there. He produced for a championship level defense last year. So I'm gonna go with CZJ at number four. What's
Yeah,
yours?
that's a guy that the Browns have also been connected to pretty heavily
Right.
in the last couple
Mm-hmm.
days. The
Yeah.
guy that they've been connected to, I don't. It doesn't feel like it's super heavy though, and he might also be out of their price range. But again, like Chark, if they were to get this guy, it would make a huge impact on their defense. Yannick Ngakoue.
Mm.
The obviously like we both ranked edge as a very high need. I think the Browns tried to get him a couple of years ago, and he wanted out of what was it, Jacksonville? I think it was Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he played well last year in Indy, and like you're just filling needs. And if you're creating a wish list, you put the guys that you most want at the top. And I think of the defensive ends that are not going to cost you $25 million, I think he's probably at the top of that list.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one too. Um, the last one I'm going to put an edge on. There's quite a few that I could go with. A lot of in free agents. There's a lot of young ones too, like Marcus Davenport. Um, Charles Menu is probably the guy I'm going to lead towards. Um, he hasn't really been a guy that's gotten the starting snaps, but he's produced pretty well over his career. He's only he's only 25 years old. So getting another young guy is would be a smart move, kind of going away from the mercenary kind of types in Jadavion Clowney to getting kind of a guy that you can stick with for a couple of years alongside Miles would be good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Charles Menu. He played for Houston last year. Or no, San Francisco. Sorry, San Francisco.
There's another guy. I'm not. I have never really thought about five deep, but I'm gonna bring up this guy not necessarily because I think he's five, but I think he might be a good alternative option to Jesse Bates.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Poyer.
Oh yeah.
He's a free agent. Yes, he's coming off an injury. Yes, he's also like 32. But
Right. He's been one of the best safeties in the league in the past, about 4 years? So,
yeah,
yeah.
I'd be kind of surprised if the Bills let him go because I don't think he's going to be super expensive
Mm-hmm.
to
Especially with
retain
all
to
safeties, yeah.
sign. Because I mean, with guys like Jesse Bates out there, like he's not. You're not going to look at a 32-year-old safety coming off an injury and say, "Let's give him a bag."
Right.
So, um, I think he could come affordably. I think he could make a difference. I think he could really, like, not only on the field. I think he can make a difference in helping Delpit get to a higher the next level.
Mhm.
Because Delpit still obviously has his shortcomings at times. But I think if you fail on the Jesse Bates pursuit because someone gives him $20 million, then Jordan Poyer is not a bad backup.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of nice actually. The free agency is kind of really lined up well for the Browns. Like
Yeah,
safety.
everywhere but D tackle. Like D tackle has
Right.
kind of like there's been a few moves in the last few days that
Right.
teams have
That's
locked
true.
up guys that were
But
thought to
they're
be
even so,
going
like
free.
there's still Javon Hargrave, Draymond Jones, Delvin Tomlinson. Like there's Zach Allen is a good young
Yeah, there's
guy.
names
Like
there.
yeah, there's like last year I think there's none. There's like hardly anybody. So it's
Yeah,
kind of lined up pretty well. Safety's loaded. Edge has a quality kind of young guys. Not like any like top tier like any top tier guys, but like really kind of good young guys that could be your starters. Interior is pretty solid too. Receiver, as you said, it's not the like overall talent wise, it's not great, but what the Browns need, it kind of fits well. So it's kind of lining up pretty well for what the Browns need. Um,
mm-hmm.
so it's gonna be fun to watch this next couple of weeks here.
Yeah,
Okay, to kind of finish this podcast up, we're just gonna do one prediction for free agency. It could be anything. Um, I'll give you mine so you can take a second and kind of figure out what you're gonna do. I think the Browns get Hargrave, Bates, or Draymond Jones. I think they end up with one of those three. I think they. If I had a lean, I would think Jones probably first, Bates
yeah.
second, and then Hargrave third. But I think they end up with one of those three. What's your prediction?
My first pseudo prediction is that the Browns are gonna all of a sudden have 30, 39, $40 million in cap
Wow,
space.
you're gonna look brilliant.
No, like they're gonna have like $40 million in cap space, and everyone is gonna get on Twitter and be so outraged.
I know.
Like all of the people that have and
Acted like
using the
this
term
contract
axe
stays
grinder
the
when it
same.
comes to um, hating on Deshaun Watson feels harsh because he
Right.
certainly deserves it. But there
Yeah.
are definitely those media heads out there that have
Narrow
been
minded.
going out of their way
Yeah.
to crap on the
Portray the
Browns whenever
contract.
they
Right.
can. So
Yeah.
yes, those people will be very upset, and I will take enjoyment in the red eyes Andrew Berry memes that are going to come out in the next few days. But I think that ultimately Jesse Bates is probably going to sign for an average annual value of like $16-17 million somewhere,
Mhm.
and we're not going to be able to afford that. So I think the biggest signing is probably going to be at the defensive tackle position, and I think it's given the connections and the fact that Denver's worried about it. I think it's going to probably be Draymond Jones. And then if I had a trade prediction, I think they might try to the Broncos are desperate for picks, and Cortland Sutton is unhappy.
Ooh. Oh man. He would be fun in this offense.
So
I would
I think that is, if I had one out there projection, I think them trading a third this year and a third next year or a third this year and like a fifth next year for
yeah.
Cortland Sutton. I think the Broncos would take that
Yeah.
because they need picks like more than we do at this
Right.
point.
Like he's like a better version of what Chark is. Like
Yeah.
he's played with just absolutely horrid quarterback play. but he's produced really, really well
Yeah.
for the most part. He's obviously I think it was last year where not this past year, but the last year where he tore his ACL or something that he was missed for most of the year. But his rookie season, he was great. I believe that was what quarterback was that? Oof,
Paxton Lynch.
no, it was the other guy. I forget his name.
I don't know. I don't think anyone remembers those quarterbacks because they don't choose not to.
Yeah, I think it was Drew Lock. It was
Oh
Drew
yeah,
Lock. Yeah.
yeah, that's not
Um,
good.
yeah. So and then last year where Russell Wilson forgot how to play football. So, but he's produced everywhere, and he's really young still. What is he? 20? He's got to be 26, 27, I would say. So yeah, he would be a that would be a formidable, really formidable receiving core that the
He's
Browns haven't
He's
had.
27.
Yeah, that's really
He should
that's
turn
really
28 this year at some point.
right. Yeah. So and is he still on his rookie contract? Or no, they extended him last year, I believe, which is weird. Like they extended him last year, and then he didn't want to be there like very quickly after that. So it's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, they have an out after next season, but
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's scheduled to make $14 million this year, 13 million, 13.5 in the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think that would be one of those things where the Browns would restructure or redo the
Well,
contract.
because his contract is so high, it might not cost as much.
True. Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
And it
But
was the
I
same
think they
reason.
would.
It was the same reason that Amari Cooper didn't cost that much because
Yeah.
his contract is pretty expansive.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm gonna say this is my other prediction. I'm gonna say they sign a safety and D tackle in free agency, and then they get a receiver in trade.
Yeah,
That'll be my routes of how they kind of go. I think they actually sign a cornerback too in free agency, not a high one, but
yeah.
kind of your fourth guy to be your
You also
backup.
need to find a backup quarterback somewhere.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know if you draft someone. I don't know if you burn a draft pick on that right now.
yeah, I don't think you do that right away. I think it's probably going to be. God, I don't even know who's. Let's see. Let's see who the quarterbacks are. We
Sam
got Lamar
Darnold, technically.
Jackson. Geno Smith is signed. Derek Carr is signed. Daniel Jones is signed. Jimmy Garoppolo is not coming here. Jacoby Brissett. Man,
Probably will go elsewhere.
but man, if people run out of places to go, I could definitely see him back. I like. I don't think there's it could be a season where the quarterback position kind of get picked up quickly. Um, Especially if Lamar goes somewhere. Watch it. Watch Jacoby goes to the Ravens.
Speaking of quarterbacks, apparently it just came out a minute ago.
Yeah.
The Bucks are targeting Baker as a potential starting quarterback option.
Oh, Jesus, Mary Joseph.
Competition for Kyle Trask.
I guess Baker got his wish. He's going to be sought after.
By
Baker
a team that literally is trying to tank at this point.
Right. Baker is number 108 on the PFF rankings. Teddy Bridgewater, maybe an option. He's a solid backup. Gardner Minshew, Marcus Mariota. He was a solid starter for a lot of the year last year. So he could. I don't know if he wants to be a backup anymore, but we'll see. Andy Dalton, no thank you. Taylor Heineke, no thank you. So yeah, those are some of the names. I could definitely see like a. I wonder if they go with a guy that's an actual capable starter, or they just kind of get a developmental guy. I can definitely see a developmental guy because if Deshaun Watson's not playing, you're not doing well.
Yeah, but I don't think you also want to throw away the season. Like you don't want to bring
Right.
in.
True.
You don't want to have what was the guy's name? or third string last year as the backup for every
Oh
game.
yeah.
You don't need that. You want to have someone that you actually can trust to go
And
out
they
there
do
and
have what's his
not
name?
be bad.
Who they signing out? Is he still on the team? Yeah, he is. The quarterback they picked up. He is still on the roster. The guy who's been on the practice squad. Um, let me get his name. Kellen Mond. Still
Yeah,
technically on the roster. So,
technically.
um, yeah, technically. Yeah. Any other kind of thoughts before we get out of here?
One random
Mm-hmm.
free agency prediction: the
Okay.
Falcons are lying.
I would ag- I would agree with that.
I think
Um,
that's my only non-Browns prediction because I truly don't know how that's going to go. But if the
right.
Falcons are just going to roll into next season with Desmond Ritter and nothing else,
Yeah, because what are they picking in the draft? I don't. They won a few games that kind of pushed them. I don't think they're in the top 10, are they? Oh yeah, they're 8, and Carolina moved up to kind of get their quarterbacks. So there's basically 4 quarterbacks that people say that are high. So Carolina will take one. Houston won't, or Houston will. So there's 2 in the first 2
Chicago
picks.
won't.
Chicago won't. Arizona won't. Indy should. And then kind of and then Las Vegas will too. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be it's gonna. If Atlanta wants to get a quarterback, they ain't getting in the drafts by staying put. Let's just say
No,
that.
they're
So
either going to trade up or they're going to give
they're
up
gonna
their
have
first 2 draft picks to get
get
Lamar.
Lamar.
And there's certainly some merit to the thought that people are not going to um, really pursue Lamar until after the draft
Mm,
because then you're giving up next year's first round pick instead of this year's.
yeah,
But
man, I don't know how you let a quarterback like that just sit there. That would be. Oof, it'll be interesting to see, but I think what's your predict? What do you think? So you think he goes to Atlanta, or do you think he goes back to Baltimore? What's your? I have a.
um,
I've been going back and forth. Like after or before they kind of signed the exclusive or
not
the
exclusive.
franchise tag, yeah, the
Yep.
non-exclusive franchise tag. I really thought he was gone, and then when all that stuff came out that all these teams said no, then I was like, are they colluding so they don't have to pay these guaranteed contracts?
Yeah,
So
it
it
certainly
can go
feels
either
weird.
way, right? I always that name the Colts really stick out to me
Yeah.
because they weren't in that list, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And the owners of doesn't care. He's one of those guys that will do anything.
No,
Um,
he'll go find a bottle of painkillers and then
right,
make the call.
right. Um,
Are we allowed to say
so
that?
it's the truth. Um, so yeah, I'm
We're
gonna
late enough in the pod.
right. I'm gonna go with. I think he ends up with the Colts. That'll be my prediction.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
either
know.
Colts or Baltimore. So
Yeah,
whatever,
I'm
whatever
I'm
former.
pretty cynical on the whole thing. I mean, honestly, if you really think about it from what the NFL might want perspective,
Mhm.
imagine having Lamar in Vegas
Oh man.
with shit Devontae Adams
Oh boy. Yeah. That would be
and
the best
Josh
receiver he's
Jacobs
ever had in a million years.
and they'd have Josh Jacobs. Like
Right. Yeah.
that offense would be really
Great.
really good.
Defensive wise, they wouldn't be able to stop anybody, but offensively, they'd be great. Yeah. Yeah. That would be a fun spot.
Do we play the
Um,
Raiders next year? I don't think we do.
finally, I think this is finally the year that we don't play them. We played them in like 5 straight years. It seems like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. It's gonna be fun to see. Um, I just hope he doesn't come back to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's the hope. It's the one thing uniting Bengals and Browns fans right now.
Yeah, right. And Steelers fans. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It just seems like a lot of bad blood between the two now. Like, especially how at end of the season he basically he didn't quit, but basically didn't want to kind of tempt his injury. It just seemed like he was kind of done with them, and it's gonna be something to see if they can actually come back together and actually come back as a team. If he plays under the franchise tag, that would be really surprising.
Yeah, I don't. I have a feeling that relationship's not going to end with him playing there this season.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, that's it. Free agency starts tomorrow at noon. The legal tampering period. I don't even
Got to
know why
imagine the Browns have to announce something by that point.
Right.
Because
I literally do not know why they have this legal tampering period. Like, can't we just start the season? Like, why is there this like 2 day?
We've already been tampering. We've been doing it.
Right. Like, what do you think happens at the combine? Like, these guys have been talking to agents. They know what the money is. Like, there's a reason why at like 12:03 on Monday, there's a contract agreed upon or whatever. Like, it's always funny to me. But
yeah,
the best was when there wasn't a legal tampering period, but people were tampering really badly. So the league was like, "Fine, you can talk now. You just can't agree and sign anything." But yeah, it's gonna be a fun couple days, couple weeks actually. Usually free agency, I think the best free agency is the NFL because they kind of get a lot of guys get signed quickly. Like baseball is kind of tough because they have the winter baseball meetings and stuff, so there's a few there, but it kind of gets spread out a little bit.
yeah.
And NBA is pretty good too. They have a good free agent period, but NFL is always fun too. You get trades, a lot of surprise releases and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun kind of couple weeks here. But we'll be back whenever if there's something monumental gets probably later in the week here, maybe around Wednesday or Thursday, I would say, right?
Yeah.
We can kind of recap what happened. Maybe Wednesday night with the league year started. But yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. This is another WFNY BrownsCast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. And we'll be back later in the week. Go Browns.